Hello and welcome to Combat Clash, where we watch the top 50 players in the world test their mettle and duke it out on the ranked arena for those delicious ELO points. Today's match takes us to Highview, where on the blue corner we have Deniskya on the English, and Corvinus1 playing the Abbassid. Looks like he's moved away a little bit from his spat of a whole bunch of Tuglat games. Will be missed. Hopefully, we'll see him play some more. I was really enjoying watching his Tuglat games. But we are in a pretty season one standard AoE IV game. We have Highview been around for quite some time. English and Abbassid, both some of the original civs in the game. And right now, it looks like a pretty standard opening from both sides. I would probably expect the House of Wisdom to come down pretty shortly here. He has the resources. He's going to need it to age up. But yeah, really overall, I don't expect we're going to see too much in the way of a whole lot of pressure for at least the first 5-6 minutes. English will, depending on what Deniskya decides to actually do, if he goes for Abbey of Kings and gets that king out, we will definitely be seeing some level of feudal pressure. But let's see how this scout war is going. Scouts are on the opposite side of the map. So looking about pretty more or less even here. Don't see a whole lot. Yeah, it looks like it's probably going to be split relatively even down the middle in terms of sheep. We got 5. Yeah, dead even at the moment. And we should be seeing an age up from really both players here in just a moment. I imagine Corvinus is just about going to be ready to go on his age up. Maybe it looks like he'll be a little short on food as this House of Wisdom finishes. But as long as it's up before he's capable of aging up, it's not wasted resources or time. All right, we have a lot of, okay, it looks like English probably going to be looking for a second town center here. Going for 5 villagers on stone and actually, yep, okay, dropping down his Abbey of Kings pretty forward. This seems, I'm imagining he's putting this out here for the aura, right? Abbey of Kings, on top of producing the king, it has a healing aura, right? 6 health every 1 second. That's honestly pretty solid. Much better than, say, like Sengoku's Ryokan. But we won't talk about that one. And yeah, it looks like, let's see, 9 sheep on Deniskya and 8 on Corvinus. So Deniskya does win the sheep war. Round 1 is won by the man in blue. Abbey of Kings. So we will definitely be looking for a good bit of at least single unit pressure. King is a very strong feudal unit, very comparable with like the Royal Knights of the French. And Corvinus opts for the economic wing. I think this is a pretty standard choice. The text that you actually get, right? So in feudal, you're unlocking the Fertile Crescent. That just makes economy buildings and houses cheaper. But I think more beneficially is just the fact that agriculture, once he gets to Castle Age, does just increase. It gives a solid farm gathering rate increase, which especially if he ends up playing against a pretty aggressive English here, it's going to be helpful for he may need to transfer to farms earlier in the game, and that can just help maintain his food economy, as farms are by default far and away the worst food choice in the game, especially early on when you have stuff like, well, obviously you can't get boar, but like deer on the map, right? Deer, berries, those are both better. And kind of surprised, I guess he doesn't necessarily need the sheep, but 12 sheep now for Corvinus. So, I suppose I spoke a little bit early. Should have poked around in the backside of his map. Corvinus actually left some sheep on his side, ends up with a few more sheep ahead. But either way, sheep war is mostly even. A little bit advantage, it looks like, towards Corvinus by the end of it. But we have Corvinus going for a lot of, actually both players going for a lot of wood at the moment. So 400 wood, and we have our 350 stone. So we are definitely going to be seeing a second town center dropped. And that's okay. So this is actually why he wanted to build this Abbey of Kings forward. He was also planning to build this town center right next to the gold. So instead of a bit of an odd choice here, I think for me personally, just because you already have the mining camp and now you it kind of ends up being a waste of wood considering you were only using it for 100 gold effectively. Nevertheless, though, not really a huge thing in the grand scheme of things. King is going to be coming out here in about 10 seconds, and we have 2 forward town centers. I'm going to be honest, this is pretty. This town center right here looks like it might be a little ripe for some feudal aggression. Both players do opt for these kind of like really forward-facing town centers, but English, just given their landmarks, right? Just and also, frankly, this town center is a lot closer to the capital TC. This one is pretty far away, and King coming down, not gonna get scared off. Scout holds him off while the TC goes up, and I'm curious to see what these players decide to do next. Corvinus is still mining stone, so he might even be looking for a third town center. I'm a little okay. No, he pulls off of it. That's quite a lot. Quite a lot. Maybe he might have just forgotten, but that's quite a lot of stone to be floating if you're not planning on immediately swapping to a third town center. And I don't believe there's any texts that require stone on the side of Abbassid. But oh man, these oh my god, this king is getting pelted. Yeah, all of those villagers. The king almost goes down just from TC fire. A bit of a blunder there by Deniskya, but and no, we are actually seeing that third town center. Wow. Okay, so both players playing very, very greedy here. Full eco, no real interest quite yet in any sort of real offense. The king does go down from the TC as he tries to get in a villager killer 2, unfortunately slips right by this fully stacked capital town center. Scout just going to kind of try to do a little damage. I think he sees that there's not really a whole lot to actually see at the moment in Corvinus's base. Just given that, there's 3 town centers going down. There's no way in hell anybody's bringing it up. There's no way Corvinus is adding any sort of military buildings to his production line, but we do have our 3rd town center up. 3 TCs, you'll see Corvinus is a tad behind. His 2nd town center did go down about a minute or so later than Deniskya. Deniskya is very quickly coming into this farm economy. Honestly, I think generally English does like to do a pretty quick farm transition, but I would maybe try, especially with the fact that there's virtually no military out, and he knows this. He has his king's back. He has a scout sitting outside of Corvinus's base. I think I would have rather have seen him either go for the deer pack here, maybe the deer pack all the way on the other side of the map, or even the boar. Frankly, there's nothing for Deniskya to really be afraid of. He has map control. Just having the king on the field just gives him so much map presence in, especially a game like this where everyone is just really like both sides are just primarily focused on economy. So why not, rather than invest in these farms this early, swap over to this deer the boar that's going to be 2,400 wood or food rather. And I don't know the exact number here, but 7 deer, it's literally right next to your base. There's no reason not to take these, especially when you don't have anything to worry about. Nevertheless, though, I digress. We still have no military. Corvinus1 now actually overtaking Deniskya in villager count, and I imagine we are going to see this lead. It's going to continue to just sort of balloon out of control if Deniskya doesn't decide to opt for some real aggression here. But it looks like he is about to age up to castle. Both players pretty close in timing here. Corvinus just a tad behind. Really not that bad of a deficit, especially just considering the fact that he farmed resources for a whole 3rd town center. But really one of the no, I thought the town center would have got a bonus from the economy wing, but it doesn't look like it did. Or am I on the wrong player? Yeah, no, yeah. So the real reason, I should say, Abbassid benefits from this tech right here that he's already taken, right? The something crescent. It makes their TCs cheaper, right? So he actually, rather than 400, 350, he was only paying 280, 245. It's a little mistake on my part, y'all, but thank you. And yeah, blacksmith going down, archery range, and a stable for Corvinus. I does not look okay. We have one stable coming out with the knights. So now that Deniskya is in Castle Age, he is looking to ramp up his aggression. He's got his king, just going to kind of help. Waiting right now until he has some more knights to really do some damage. Town centers, they do have the benefit of being very fortified defensive outposts, right? So with the way he's got these TCs set up, Corvinus is able to pretty comfortably defend a lot of his economy, especially against just a single king. But that tune is going to change very quickly as two knights are coming across the map. And now we should start seeing some real damage here. It's going to be, unfortunately, one of the downsides of Abbassid, and one of the reasons Abbassid are generally considered a little bit weaker here is the fact that they cannot speed up their tech up. So even though they started relatively close in terms of age up timings, Corvinus only just now hitting Castle Age. We do have some Camel Riders coming out, a perfect counter. I would say a perfect counter. These units are fantastic units for fighting against Knight Civs, against Knight Comps. And at the moment, that is all Deniskya has. I wouldn't be surprised to maybe see some other units coming out of the White Tower, but one of the benefits here, and one of the reasons we are only actually seeing a single stable for Deniskya, is the fact that all keeps for the English, including their landmark keeps, are basically universal military buildings. They can build every single military unit for the English. So it really saves them, especially if they want to build like siege engines later in the game. They don't necessarily have to invest a bunch of money into a siege workshop just for a couple of mangonels or a couple of trebuchets. But we do have this pressure coming in on Corvinus. Only really successfully picked off one villager, unfortunately, for Deniskya. So these trades are really not working out in his favor, and he might be losing another knight. No, only loses the one. And yeah, okay. So there's Deniskya doing a very good job of just really spreading these knights out as he works to take every single relic. He actually walked all the way across the map for, I believe, his very first relic. Yeah. Really just trying to sneak these relics out from under the nose of Corvinus. And, so far it is working. I do not think we have I am not seeing, oh no. Yeah, okay. We do have a mosque. So first Imam is coming out, going to be looking to take that middle relic. But we have our little engagement here. Corvinus trying to drop a wall in the center of the map. And Deniskya looking to not let that happen. And he has quite a few knights here. It's definitely going to work out in his favor. And he's actually going to snag this relic before Corvinus' Imam can get there. Though it does look like our camel archers are going to take him down. So can he actually... I don't think he's got enough units here to protect this Imam. Maybe he'll have a chance to sneak it, though. Getting a little preoccupied fighting these Ghulams. Yeah, just 3 archers. Oh, yep. And Imam's going to go down unless he sneaks it. Okay. He might get away with it. Let's hope he keeps this going. Yep. Okay. All right. So he does manage to take one relic. I think that puts us at about even here. Yep. Okay. First monk from all the way across the map going to be dropping off his relic. That's really rightfully Corvinus's relic. So it's unfortunate for him, but more camels here with a Ghulam. Okay, and knights coming as well. Just try to get any economic impact they can. Has only managed to pick off 4 villagers. Unfortunately, 3 town centers versus 2 town centers, that's not going to make much of a difference. You can see he's 16 workers ahead of Deniskya in worker count. And this wall hasn't quite, it looks like Corvinus would like to build this wall, but he's not moving out any villagers to make it happen. Although that being said, only Delhi can build walls. Okay, so camel forces do push off the knights for the time being. Looks like Corvinus is also starting to build a nice little backline of crosswomen. So for a true counter to this mostly pure knight force, up until this point, pure knight force, archers or longwomen are coming in, going to be sort of used as a counter both to the camel archers and the crosswomen, right? Longwomen with their increased range do very, very well against all the mounted archers, right? But especially units like this, like the camel archer, and really, if this front line does go down and these camel archers are still kind of around, they're still going to have that defensive aura against any sort of horse, any sort of cavalry. So, I think it's only horses. Yeah. And we do have a raid. Deniskya looking to get some real damage here. 9 knights going to be sneaking in on the right side of the map. Although he looks like he is going to get spotted out by Corvinus' scout. Really lucky positioning on that scout here, though. We'll see if he catches it. Scout instantly. Yep. Okay, so he's pulling back his units. Scout does get taken out. But we have quite the walls coming up for both players. Really wanting to narrow down the area of engagement here. And here come the knights. Couple camels here, but not going to be enough to do any real damage at the moment. Probably going to lose a few of them before the rest of his camels get here. And yeah, okay. English backing off. Don't actually take any losses here. So really good, good stalls the eco for a little bit. But unfortunately, he is well behind Corvinus' base, and Corvinus does a very good job of flanking him, forcing this fight to go down. And night after night here going down, mix of camel riders and camel archers doing fantastic work against these units. Lots of low health camels, but it does not matter when there are this many of them. 3 left, probably going down, except for maybe our last remaining knight may get out of here, but it's looking like he won't. Especially if Corvinus decides to rotate the rest of his army, which he does not. Middle sacred site here captured. They're even at the moment on sacred sites. I do believe quite a few relics went into the hands of. Yeah, only 1 relic at the moment. Were there only 4 on this map? I feel like there was 5. Nonetheless. Yeah, okay, there was. So English picks up all but 1. Corvinus really unlucky here, unfortunately for him, in relic count. But, Corvinus also has a 30 worker lead, so it really kind of evens itself out. Big engagement here happening. Camels frontlining this mass of longwomen. That, this is just not looking too great. Yeah, I was garrisoning his entire army into this keep. And the White Tower, guys, as a lot of you may already know, but the White Tower is not to be messed with. This thing shreds through units, especially with 17 guys garrison inside of it. So I'm surprised he's kind of still sitting under this town center keep. He just does not care. He's looking to kill off, looking maybe to sacrifice this army, just get as much eco damage as he can. Yeah, if he can get more units into this wood line, he's got a big opportunity to do some damage. But the English villagers get the concave with their longbows, shredding through these guys, actually. Managed. So, I mean, not a bad trade overall. He evens out the villager kill count effectively, actually takes a one villager lead on the kill. But we do have, while he's distracting the rest of his army, the rest of Deniskya's forces, he's actually dropping a keep right in the center of the map. And this is, I mean, literally just outside of his base here. I think, can he actually see this? Yeah, he totally knows his keep is there. There was just nothing he could do about it. With current walls, at the moment, the only thing that Corvinus has to look at in terms of like a potential raids is going to be the southern side of this map, right? He has the northern and central side walled off. He's finishing up the wall in the center, but he also has a keep there. Getting the boiling oil, so going to be very useful against any sort of melee forces that want to come and try to torch this keep down. And we are, okay, we've got some idle. Okay, so, Corvinus hit his 122 worker count. Fantastic count. And he's pretty content with that. He wants to just commit the rest of his population cap to military. So building some forward-facing barracks here. a little bit closer to the action. At the moment, yeah, we're still looking at a whole lot of Lancers actually for Corvinus. Lancers for the front line, a handful of actually no camo front line anymore. Just sticking with the camo archers, a mix of camo archers and crossmen for his back line. And we do have the Lancers coming in for a raid, but there are a ton of outposts here, enough to cover all 19 of his villagers here for Deniskya. So does lose a couple of these camels. So unfortunately, this force is not going to have the added bonus fighting against these knights of the camel debuff. We expect to maybe see these guys going down here and try to do some damage on the wood line. And another keep going down for Corvinus. Corvinus really committed to taking advantage of all the stone and dropping these keeps everywhere. We have a trebuchet out for Deniskya, and 2 trebuchets actually. So he's looking to just siege out these keeps without having to really commit to anything. But these knights are not interested, Lancers I should say, are not interested in letting Deniskya hit this Imperial Age up. Wingard Palace trying to go down. I don't know if that's gonna, well, it looks like it's gonna happen for sure. But that may be a mistake just with the sheer size of Corvinus's eco and forces at the moment. They are pretty even numbers wise, but horsemen coming in, gonna burn down these trebuchets before they could do anything. And yeah, oof. That is a tough luck for Deniskya there, losing both of those guys while he's distracted with the Lancers on the southern side of his base. Just forcing this idle time on this gold mine is huge. It's the only source of gold Deniskya is mining off of at the moment. He does have a couple more available to him, but yeah, just losing all that eco time there, and these villagers are still idling in here. It's actually got 50 villagers idle at the moment. Practically, Deniskya's entire eco is idle at the moment, as Corvinus is just diving into the middle of Deniskya's base and forcing stuff to happen here. So yeah, he's just getting a little, his attention is getting pulled in a little too many directions at the moment. Only just now getting his eco back online, back to actually collecting those resources. I mean, we had idle villagers literally everywhere in his base. That's pretty unfortunate. And we do have a couple of villagers over here on this mining camp. I imagine these are the guys that built this wall here, but they're not really doing a whole lot with this wood. It's not sure exactly what he wants to use it for, if anything. King is coming back out, but yeah, this keep, really multiple keeps now, are just doing a really good job of keeping Deniskya contained, and that is such a important way, like important tactic here, especially against a civ like English that is very good, frankly, at playing that defensive game and controlling where and how engagements happen. Really, Corvinus, all but ignoring this white tower, he's dove this thing multiple times. Lancers again getting on the back line, picking up a couple of kills. 28 villager kills now for Corvinus. So it is just, this is a uphill battle. 144 villagers versus 91 for Deniskya. It is not looking good. So, we're looking at a 50 villager count difference. Corvinus right now down 30 military count. In the next minute, it's probably going to be broken even, if not in Corvinus's favor. He has a ton of production buildings up and running, and there's no reason for him to build too many more villagers at this point. So he's just going to be pumping out units pretty much nonstop. And we do have Sacred Site victory is on the way. It's still just under 8 minutes. So we got quite a ways. But with Imperial Age up, we do have all of our unit upgrades coming out. Our elite horsemen, it looks like, yeah, he's picking up all the military techs he can for his units. I'm really trying to just beef up his units here. I don't think we actually have any. Yeah, we're just still on veteran units. I don't think we even have elite knights at the moment. Oh, just now about to get elite tech upgraded. There we are. Elite knights are out, which I believe are a fair bit stronger than Lancers, although actually Corvinus opts to switch off of Lancers completely, switching to a crossbow or a horseman heavy cavalry force instead. And we do have our culverins out. Corvinus is looking to really do some damage and potentially end the game now, as these cannons, these culverins, are just going to do fantastic damage, and they are most certainly going to be outranging these keeps. Meanwhile, horsemen coming in on the back of Deniskya's base, looking to do some economic damage, gets a few more kills. We'll see if he migrates this to the wood line. That's where the real juicy. All these villagers here just completely exposed. Deniskya actually pulls his army back behind his base to try to deal with them, and we have a lot of, just a ton of archers here, kind of just sitting here while these culverins do their damage. But they are coming in and looking to just shred down hit point by hit point these culverins, and he almost gets it. But unfortunately, are these longbowmen going to do it? No, they do not. We might want to get a villager out here to repair this, but needless to say, Corvinus' forces here doing a very good job of handling, backed up by this keep against any of these knights. Yeah, they are just shredding through Deniskya's forces, and the horsemen are still in the back of his base, still forcing units back here off of the actual push, which, this is, White Tower is going to go down. There are only a handful of villagers healing this, and it is not going to be enough. White Tower catches on fire, and there it goes. 10 health gonna burn down, and there it goes. All right, so 2 landmarks down. Second town center, this one's going down for good here shortly. That is a pretty big loss as well, especially when he's still this far down in villager count. But at this point, this is going to be a hard game to turn around for Deniskya. He's lost a lot of his economic power here, and we have Corvinus actually looking to drop down some stone walls here, just right in the front of Deniskya's base, but he is not going to get that opportunity. Deniskya finally deals with those horsemen and is now pushing back, running his forces up to this keep, but that oil is nothing to sneeze at, especially with all these knights sitting just under it. And these culverins picking off longbowmen one at a time. Yeah, this is just a really tough spot for Deniskya to be in at the moment. He is down to, so we still got plenty of gold at the moment. Actually, it looks like Corvinus is the one who's pretty much mined out with all those extra villagers. He is just finishes mining out his gold. So there is little to no gold left on the map for Corvinus. So we are going to need to see some traders coming in, which I do not. Okay, yeah. So we do have a market set up. Be curious to see when he decides to really start committing to switching to a trade economy, as that's going to be his only way of getting gold here shortly. But, maybe he doesn't need it. He is very committed to mining out this stone. I'm curious to know if we get some more, any more keeps coming out. But Corvinus, with the advantage of having taken these sacred sites and being able to hold these for so long, I would have liked to maybe see Deniskya looking to decap at the very least this northern one, but just in general, trying to actually force a decap on places that weren't the middle. This was Corvinus's most fortified position by far. And now that we are at less than 4 minutes, 3.5 minutes and counting on this sacred site victory, there's a very real chance that this goes through. We've got a keep on every sacred site. There are a lot of knights here, but these longbowmen are unfortunately not going to be able to do a ton. And Corvinus taking advantage of the fact that stone walls they take a lot of damage to destroy, especially just with range units. And Deniskya going in looking to force this decap has to make something happen soon, as he's down to under 3 minutes on the sacred site. But so far, it is not looking like it's going to work out. Corvinus just maintaining a very strong military force here, and he's actually looking to flank around the side and get some. We'll see if he's either going to flank or just go for some strong economic damage. I don't think he needs to flank here. Corvinus's forces in the front line just taking these knights to task. Gulams and camel riders are all he needs. And there is the GG. That was, fantastically played by Corvinus, really. English, Deniskya played well. I think he could have. I think he didn't get as much economic damage as he would have wanted early, especially if he wasn't going to actually match the triple town center. Just having an extra town center, especially on these economic focused civs like Abbassid, is just a huge advantage. And yeah, English had two. I think seeing that he was going for three, he kind of just Deniskya really just looked to he just castled up, sticking to the two town centers, and unfortunately or fortunately for Corvinus, really, the cheaper town center really kind of allowed him to get that third town center out without almost any issue. But like he was only about a minute or so, maybe minute and a half, 2 minutes at most, behind Deniskya and the castle age up, and that just really did not go in Deniskya's favor. He wasn't really able to get that damage out that he would have wanted with that like knight aggression. But yeah, fantastically played by both players. GG to Corvinus for that win. Fantastic show of the force and power of Abbassid, especially when they are able to, safely, more or less. He played the defense very, very well. I will say he handled that knight pressure. Almost perfectly. There was practically nothing. I think all in all, the knight maybe got one villager kill through a feudal into like early castle. So GG's to Corvinus for the win. And thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Combat Clash. If you're itching for another round, take a look at some of our recent clashes just over to the left. And of course, if you'd like to see more of this and similar content, do be so kind as to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. So long, and I will see you next time for another round of Combat Clash.